Today is a young goat's birthday. And in honor of, we're making a video about him. Like I say normally, not the video I had planned today, but it's a legend's birthday. So you know a Zoro video had to come out today. So in honor of Zoro's birthday, we're gonna have a Monster Trio triple day. So today Zoro, tomorrow Sanji, and then Wednesday is a surprise. I don't mind talking about Zoro. I actually love talking about Zoro. The Zoro fans sometimes on Twitter, they drive me crazy, and even on YouTube, they drive me insane because they just love Zoro so much, and Zoro is one of my favorite characters. I say that all the time, but you guys are so in love with Zoro. Jesus Christ, give him a break. Regardless, today we're talking about Zoro and why he's awesome, and honestly how strong you think he's going to be at the end of Wano. Here's the thing with this video. I have to teeter a bit in regards to getting into specifics and how I feel about certain things because, hint, hint, it plays into my Wednesday video a little bit, something that I've been working on. I mentioned it before. So how strong do we think Zoro should be at the end of Wano? Before we come to terms with that, we have to figure out how strong Zoro is now. I'm not gonna go all the way back to pre-time skip because that's a long conversation that I'm not willing to have just yet, but let's go to post-time skip. Okay, before that, I'm doubling back and I'm all over the place here, but before that, let's talk about how strong we feel like Zoro is without his bandana. No, I'm joking, but how strong do you feel like Zoro is post-time skip? There's been some inconsistencies in regards to how things have been handled. Zoro did not fare well against the Yeti Cool brothers, and I know I get it, and I know some of the Zoro fans are super pissed right now. Trust me, I'm going to get to the Wano stuff, but hear me out. Fought a dragon in Punk Hazard, in Fishman Island, Hirozo, or whatever the hell his name was, he had no chance against Zoro. Zoro was pretty much owning him the entire time. The only thing was that Zoro had a bunch of moments post-time skip that showed that there's a lot more he's capable of. The main thing that everybody goes to is the fact that he hasn't used Ashri yet, which is, I guess, a mode or a form, the thing that he used versus Kaku, and he used it again in Sabaody. He hasn't used that since post-time skip. Imagine Luffy not using, well, the strongest thing he had pre-time skip was Gear Second. Imagine Luffy at this point in the story, because the time skip was around chapter 600, we're at chapter 950, chapter 961, and Zoro hasn't used his strongest attack. That is insane. I think that is terrible. For one, Zoro should have been used this thing, which means he hasn't been challenged as such. Some of the complaints that people have had is that Zoro hasn't been pushed post-time skip, and I agree with that, and that's why the comparisons with Sanji come so much, because Sanji has been pushed several times and even embarrassed several times. The main time obviously is versus Doflamingo, and people point out Virgo, but that wasn't really a fight, it was a clash. But people say, well, Sanji's greatest thing got cracked by Virgo, and Virgo, that's not even his best thing because he's Virgo of the bamboo, whatever. I fought with that for a while because Virgo, even though he's Virgo of the bamboo, doesn't mean he doesn't kick really well. And then even though he's Straw Hat Luffy, whatever. Besides the point, when Zoro's gone against a strong opponent, he hasn't been embarrassed post-time skip, I don't think. Well, versus Killer and Yukimaru, that was a weird one because, oh shit. Spoiler alert. Versus Kamazo and Yukimaru, that was a weird one because at that point, Kamazo is still on crack. And Yukimaru, from now we know he's a fox. So Zoro lost to, honestly, a crackhead and a fox. And then he passed out. Now, I'm not sure what the anime is going to spin on it because people are saying, well, the kanji said he was hungry. I guess. Zoro has gone through a lot worse. So for him to pass out from that impalement, it was weird. Something like, did Zoro get weaker in regards to durability post time skip? Of course, we know the nothing happened moment. That's probably the best moment in One Piece. Like literally the best moment in One Piece. Of course, I Want to Live is comparison, Usopp and Luffy moment, but that's probably the best and most quoted moment in One Piece history. So to see him go down from that, it was kind of underwhelming. It's funny because one of the themes pre-time skip was Zoro being hurt and it going over into the next arc. From Baratie to Arlong Park and Logtown, who's a little chipped up, almost cut his leg off at Little Garden. And then of course Thriller to Sabaody. So Zoro, he hasn't been 100% a lot pre-time skip. Post-time skip is a different animal. Zoro just hasn't been challenged as much. Okay, again, the return to Sabaody, flexing. Fishman Island, flexing. Punk Hazard, aside from the Yeti Cool brothers, flexing. Dressrosa, this is the key one. He fought Pika. Pika ran away from most of that fight. When Zoro finally got him, it was pretty much over. More moments in Dressrosa involve Fujitora. Zoro matched up with Fujitora twice in Dressrosa. The first time, the obvious time that people remember, is when he was going after Doflamingo and Fujitora stepped in. The second time was in the midst of the birdcage. Fujitora was in the midst of all that and Zoro's in front of him, then it cuts away. Obviously he survives. I'm not saying Oda's coddling Zoro, but there's a narrative that he's trying to drive home here. Now people always say that Zoro is as strong as Luffy. I'll give my thoughts on that pretty soon, but I think it's a deeper narrative there to kind of show that the Straw Hats, they can overcome whatever it is that's in front of them at that time. Yeah, Sanji versus Doflamingo. People argue that all the time. Would Zoro do better? Would Sanji do better? It's hard to say that he would because of what Doflamingo presents as a fighter. He's not a swordsman, and he's a very quirky type of fighter, and he has if you don't know what his power is, it can overwhelm you pretty quickly. That's what happened to Sanji, but his initial goal was to save the Straw Hats, which he accomplished. And that happens a lot with Sanji. He comes in and he saves whomever, and then that gets lost in translation because at the end of the day, people want to see, okay, you saved them, now fight, now win, now dominate. With Zoro, he doesn't have the same narrative. For him, he comes in and he normally has a longer drawn out fight. Of course, Sanji versus Mr. 2 was amazing, and Zoro versus Mr. 1 was very good as well. But then even in that, it gets a lot more hype or discussion just because the breath of all things was used, maybe a precursor to Haki. It's a lot going on there. But even still, up to Dressrosa, the strongest opponent that Zoro actually faced was Pika, because the Fujitora versus Zoro fight didn't really go anywhere. I don't know if you want to count Carrot and Zoe, but that wasn't anything. He wasn't a part of Whole Cake Island, obviously wasn't a part of Reverie. Now we're in Wano country. I mentioned Kamazo and Gukimaru before, but those weren't real opponents. Short fights, short clashes, we move on. So at this point, hasn't used his strongest attacks. We saw him versus Hawkins, but in that situation, it was him and Luffy, they're protecting Tama. Still a very peculiar situation. To be honest, as a Zoro fan, it's really difficult to see him losing again to anyone. What I mean is anybody that's going to fight Zoro, it's hard to see them coming out with a W. Of course, the obvious people that could beat him, yeah, but anybody that's relatively close to him or on his level, it's hard to see him losing to them. I talk about Law versus Zoro all the time. Slowly but surely, I'm going towards the Zoro side because Zoro seems to keep getting power-ups when Law has remained stagnant. I think in Punk Hazard, people had a different view of Law based on how dominant he was versus Smoker, then also one-shotting Virgo. Then when we got to Dressrosa, emotions were involved. Doflamingo even called him out saying, why are you fighting like this, Law? You're doing things that are obvious to me. I don't think that's an accurate gauge of Law's strength or his true power. And again, he was playing support that entire arc as well, but even going up against Zoro, that's a lot to overcome. So I'm still kind of 50-50 on that at this point. And again, Zoro now has Enma. Not looking good for Law. Regardless, that's not what we're here to talk about. How strong is this man? The scale that everyone uses now is commander level, admiral level, Yonko level. We had the tier maker for a while, trying to tier these characters. King of Lightning had the high. But I think for Zoro, based on his level now, commander level is probably where I'm most comfortable at putting him. But the thing is, what is commander level? Well, Yonko commander level is a spectrum. When you go through what that actual spectrum is, it's literally from Snack, because I don't want to use Burgess because that's difficult because he's going up against Sabo. Snack to Katakuri. Snack was beaten by Aruj. Snack was also fighting Judge, and Judge came out okay. He didn't die. Cracker was beaten by Luffy. Katakuri was beaten by Luffy. Of course, things affected those fights. He had Nami, then he had Plot. So, what do we make of all this? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Zoro's beating Snack. There's no way in my mind that I think Snack losing to Aruj and fighting against Judge is beating Zoro. Just gonna put that out there. I think the territory that gets dicey is when we get to Cracker, the third commander for Big Mom. So that would be Jozu and Whitebeard's crew. The third on Blackbeard's crew, I don't know, that's anyone's guess. Shanks, I guess that's Lucky Roo or Yasop. Zoro's around that level to me, where if he fought Cracker, regardless of how you feel about Cracker, his biscuits were overwhelming Luffy for a while. Of course, with Nami softening them, they had to even fight for 11 hours. A lot of people say Zoro's gonna cut right through his haki. I don't know if it's that simple, but I think right now, Zoro and Cracker by himself, high diff fight. And it could go either way. Zoro has Enma now. He still has to train it because Enma, as we know, is training him. It's forcing him to release excessive amounts of Ryo. So in a way, it's helping with stamina. But if he has to go all out and has a dominant slash, he can do that with Enma. Again, Zoro said himself, once he's gotten used to the sword, he'll be even stronger. So we're anticipating this is Zoro mastering Enma. How strong is he at the end of it? And of course, he would have had fights in Wano, full fights. I'm assuming Zoro has 2 more full fights in Wano because the arc I anticipate to be very long. So first, just to give you an idea of Zoro's growth, in Enies Lobby, or Water 7 Enies Lobby, fought against Kaku, got dominated. 20 chapters later, Zoro fights Kaku again. Or even before that, when Nami was worried about Luffy, Zoro says, we've gotten stronger every single arc. Every time we get in a fight, we get stronger. Zoro had his moment on the sea train, things like that, fought fodder. But even when he got to Kaku, he said, I've gotten a lot stronger. Hadn't fought anyone really of note, but just going through that arc, gaining experience, he got that much stronger to overwhelm Kaku. And of course, he used Ashura. The main fight I see here for Zoro, Kirishiro. I think that's somebody he has to overcome. I think that's the perfect fight for him. Again, we don't know Kirishiro and where his allegiance lies. Let's say Kirishiro is Denjiro. He may come over to our side. If not, so it's 2 things. If Kirishiro comes over to the side of the Scabbards, obviously Zoro won't fight him. I think his attention turns to King. Now, a lot of people saying Zoro can't fight King, it wouldn't make sense because Luffy, he had to fight someone like Doflamingo, Cracker, before he got to Katakuri. That's a fair argument. There's nothing I can really say to dispute that because if we assume that Zoro doesn't have to grow the same way Luffy does, does, and you're implying that Zoro is stronger than Luffy coming out of the post-time skip. But honestly, I don't see Zoro fighting anyone else. King is the right hand of Kaido. King is a swordsman. I think everything lines up. But I want to put a quick caveat in there. Something that I've been thinking about. Someone that Oda saved in Whole Cake Island was Smoothie. Smoothie is in Wano for a reason. Would it be so wrong if Zoro was to fight Smoothie first, then fight King? It would somewhat mirror Luffy's journey. Of course, outside of fighting Doflamingo, because Doflamingo, again, that was a tag team fight. Fights Smoothie alone, overcomes her, and then goes on to fight King, and then he would overcome him. But after he fights King, if Zoro beats the second commander and right hand of Yonko, obviously that immediately puts him on right hand level. Because if he fights King, it'll be a high extreme diff fight where Zoro has to pull something literally out of his ass, or something we haven't seen at all post-time skip like Ashura, to defeat King. And even then, maybe it might not be enough, and he gets just a little help to overcome King. By the end of Wano, I predict Zoro could be right hand commander level, at least second commander level to right hand. For Luffy, he's not going to be Yonko level at the end of Wano, but I expect him to be able to fight with any right hand and best him. Because right now I think Luffy loses to Ben Beckman, think he loses to Marco. Shit, honestly, some may say he could still lose to Katakuri. Regardless, I think right hands are still giving Luffy a lot of problems. At the end of Wano, still give him some problems, but definitively he would win against every right hand. For Zoro, I think he'll be around second commander to right hand level. Because if he overcomes King, what else can you really say? Sure, that presents something special, because say he's on the level of the Scabbards like Shutenmaru. We saw what Shutenmaru was able to do to Jack. I assume the Scabbards, not all, but Shutenmaru, Denjiro, Kawamatsu to be around commander level, third, second commander level. Zoro, I presume, is going to be stronger than all the Scabbards at the end of Wano. I expect to see a lot from Zoro, a lot of growth this arc. I think as an overwhelming force, it's hard to match the intensity that Zoro brings. And with Enma, and we saw he was slicing cliffs in Wano, like Jesus Christ. So once he gets that through and gets done with King, we're assuming, or even Smoothie, the growth from Enma, possibly using Ashura, training his Ryo, training his armament, getting better with observation haki. Maybe we see him use King's haki this arc, because I presume that Zoro has King's haki as well. Sky's the limit for this man. So that's pretty much it for me. Leave your thoughts below. How strong is Zoro after Wano? Right hand commander level, second commander level, even past that. Happy birthday to the GOAT. I appreciate you guys' support. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support goes a long way and I appreciate it. Again, happy birthday to Zoro. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.